Hey, welcome to The Explainer. You know, from ancient Rome all the way to the modern world, human history is basically a story of empires. But what if the reason we build these huge, powerful things isn't what we think it is? What if it has less to do with power and a lot more to do with something, well, personal? Let's get into the surprising truth behind why we build.
So, we usually think of empires as being all about power, right? Conquest, dominance, yeah, that's definitely a big part of the story. But what if that's not the real driver? The source material we're looking at today suggests something else entirely, that our deep, underlying ambition is actually to push human progress forward, and empires are just the vehicles we build for that massive project.
So here's how we're going to break this down today. First, we'll tackle what I'm calling the empire enigma. Then we'll look inward at our inner quest. After that, we'll connect the two and see how the empire acts as a mirror. And finally, we'll talk about the ultimate goal, a quest for restoration.
All right, let's dive right into that big historical puzzle, the empire enigma. Seriously, why do we as a species just keep building them, over and over again?
Well, our source points to this really fascinating pattern. If you look back through history, it seems there has always been at least one major empire leading the way. You can almost think of it like a global relay race for civilization. Each empire runs its leg, pushing humanity forward, before passing the baton of progress to the next great power.
But here's the thing. Not just any big country can do this. To really become an engine of progress, an empire has to create the right environment. It needs to provide protection, for sure, and freedom for people to build things. But then it has to actively promote creativity and encourage inventiveness. These aren't just nice-to-haves. They are the essential ingredients for progress to even show up.
So we see the pattern, we see the conditions. But that still leaves us with the big question. What's the real, fundamental human driver behind this obsession that spans centuries? Well, the answer, as it turns out, is a lot closer to home than you might think.
And to find that answer, we actually need to zoom out from the giant map of history and zoom way in to our own minds. This is all about our inner quest for something called self-actualization.
This quote from the source really it gets right to the point, doesn't it? It suggests that, life is tough. We go through things, we face challenges, and it kind of leaves us feeling a little battered or incomplete. And that feeling creates this powerful, deep-seated need to try and fix ourselves, to restore ourselves, to feel whole again.
And this gets at a universal human truth. Every single one of us is imperfect. We all have our own unique set of flaws or deficiencies that we're trying to work on. And that constant, lifelong effort to improve, to grow, to mend what's broken, that's really the engine that drives our inner lives.
You can kind of picture this journey as a climb. The first step is just working to overcome those deficiencies we all have. Once we do that, we can start to pursue real, genuine inner growth. And the summit, the very top of that climb, is this state we call self-actualization.
So, what is self-actualization? Well, you can think of it as a state where you're just fully functional. You feel content, you're good with yourself, you're at ease with who you are. It's the ultimate goal of all that inner work. It's what we're all striving for, whether we call it that or not. But, and this is a huge but, getting there and staying there is incredibly hard. The source uses this perfect metaphor. It's like trying to swim upstream in a river that's flowing really fast. Life is constantly pushing back against you. So this quest to feel whole, it takes constant, non-stop effort. Okay. So on one hand, we have this massive, historical drive to build empires. On the other, we have this deeply personal inner quest to feel whole. They seem totally separate, right? Well, this next part is where it all clicks. This is the empire as a mirror.
The whole idea starts with a very simple but very powerful premise. Everything that's happening inside of us, our struggles, our hopes, our ambition to be better, it doesn't just stay locked inside. Our inner world always shapes the outer world we create around us. And that leads us to the absolute core argument of this entire explanation. Get this. An empire isn't just a political thing. It's a reflection. It's what our individual, internal drive for self-actualization looks like when it's projected out into the world on a massive scale.
Let me put it another way. You know that urge you feel to learn a new language, or fix a bad habit, or just become a better version of yourself? Well, take that feeling, multiply it by millions of people, and what you get is the energy that builds universities, that funds science, that creates the very structures for a society to progress. An empire is just that collective impulse, organized.
And that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle, the part that ties it all together. The ultimate goal here is a quest for restoration. See, that goal of restoration, of being made whole again, it works on both levels. For us as individuals, we're trying to restore our own battered selves. And for us as a society, through this thing called an empire, we are collectively trying to create a restored world, one that's a little more perfect, a little more advanced, a little closer to the ideal.
So here's how the whole cycle plays out. It starts with you, with me, with the individual, overcoming our inner stuff. That process leads us towards self-actualization. And when a person reaches that state, they don't just keep it for themselves, they share that growth. And an empire, when it's working right, becomes the vehicle for sharing that progress with everyone else.
And this is why, even with all their complicated and often dark histories, empires can sometimes be seen as a beacon of light. They can represent our collective inner wish for an ideal world projected onto the world stage, our shared ambition for a better life made real.
Which kind of leaves us with one final big question to think about. If this whole cycle of progress and restoration really does start inside each of us, then it's worth asking yourself, in your own life, in your work, your family, your community, what empire of progress are you building? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.